recording here, and we're good to go. Week 12, and this is R511, which will be repeated actually next fall. I'll use the video from this session. And now that I have a haircut, maybe I'll be on next week too. Next week we have with us, another personal friend of mine, and Gina Anderson, who was a tennis star at the University of Dayton, and also was a student who was in the PhD program for a while and decided to do the EDD. And she was one of the first EDD graduates in the IST program. So she'll be with us next week and she started her own company.
I may have to join you.
Yeah. She moved from Notre Dame area, from South Bend, to Charleston, South Carolina. And she works particularly with the trucking industry of all things and many others. She's one of the most creative people I've met. She's created decks of cards and other kinds of things to get teams to interact and all sorts of things. So that's Gina. She got her master's in instructional technology, as well as her PhD and bachelor's in science ed. And it's called Luma Brighter Learning is the name of the company. She also is a runner on the weekends. She sets records with her husband running, not marathons, but somewhat in 10Ks and 5Ks and things like that.
Well, I did a 5K.
I did one marathon.
And I'm here.
I ran about 5K tonight before coming. 5K is good. So
I'm acting silly.
Oh, please do, because otherwise Christian's going to be the only one acting silly, and he's my sidekick. We're like Abbott and Costello. So Daria Vaughn is with us. She's a seasoned instructional designer and performance improvement consultant, product manager with more than 20 years of experience. Back around when I knew her, she had her own company, Power Ed Consulting, and in 2009 she launched that. And spent 10 years managing highly complex kinds of things, high budget learning projects and information digital strategy product solutions in higher ed, government settings, nonprofit, corporate, healthcare, and pharmaceuticals. And lo and behold, somebody decided that she needed to work in one of those pharmaceutical companies. So that's where she's at now. She's really interested in leading large scale agile transformations, acting as a change agent, acting as a coach for other people and other teams and departments, trying to increase the quality of the products, the agility of the workforce and teams, customer focus. Oh, we have another guest coming in here tonight. Nicholas is here. Trying to get things ramped up for speed to market. And right now she's in downtown Indianapolis. And you have her email. It's in the little note that I sent to all of you with her bio. Daria posted something about Agile to LinkedIn last week or something like that. And I said, ooh, she'd be the perfect person to have to come in during our discussions about human performance technology and HRD and HPT and all sorts of other things. We've moved to the corporate training side during the latter half of the course, in effect. Okay. And a bit about job opportunities within the field, which has been near and dear to everyone's heart here this semester. Finding out what's going on, because there's a lot of change in the air right now. There's a lot of movement happening. And just 20 minutes before class, a former student was asking me, do you know of any positions out there? I want to move. So, I end up matching people up once in a while. And sometimes when we bring in the guest ends up having an internship or something like that. One of my students latches onto and it becomes a win-win situation, although I really don't like the win-win notion, but becomes advantageous, let's just say. So, Daria, you were in the program about 7 years ago or so, 8, 9?
Yes. That's what the math in my mind says, yes.
That's what the little transcript says. But
I started in 2008, but that was the same time that was the same year that my son decided to be born. So I was working full time and decided to come through the program. I actually started in the CERT program, to be honest, and I took 3-4 courses and of course got those A's, had to get those A's. and made the transition over into the program. So yeah, I finished in 18. So what is that, about 5 years now?
Yeah.
Wow.
We have more certificates. So we have one in online teaching and learning that I just did. I'm in charge of that sort of kind of.
Really?
So it's called stackable degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're in the workforce and you're a product of a stackable degree.
Yeah.
And a lot of people today are seeking micro-credentials. And they're
Absolutely.
wondering what the receptivity of the corporate space is to micro-credentials and certificates and those kinds of things. Can you give us your perspective and what you've seen out there in terms of stacking one's degrees and micro-credentials? And what are the hot topics that one might invest time in?
I'll be very honest. That for me is a loaded question, because whenever anyone talks to me, the first thing that I say to them is, I'm an instructional designer and performance improvement consultant, because that is core to who I am and very close to my heart. What I'll say in answer to that question is the ability to know and fully understand what your skill set is going to be the best advice that I could give to anyone, because I am not operating as an instructional designer, but as a product manager for this pharmaceutical company. They've asked me to build their onboarding program. So guess who's doing the curriculum mapping and all of those good things? Although I'm working with some folks and I'm like, can y'all go build that now? But from a strategic standpoint, that's me using all those skills that I got from the degree program. When you talk about stackable degrees, I've got the full master's, so I use that for sure, almost something out of that master's almost every day, to be very honest with you. For me, most of it is around change, but for me, the stackable degrees or the certificates where I am benefiting from have helped me to pivot into IT project management. So if anybody is looking into that field, you'll see it termed as business agility or information digital strategy. So I have gained quite a few, 4 to 5 certificates in that particular realm that have truthfully placed me nicely within product management and IT, and allows me to then use my instructional design and performance improvement consulting skills as well.
So a couple of people have been guests this semester, and when I asked them what is the number one thing that students could get, project management skills and courses
absolutely.
in that area. So it sounds like you have a second certificate or a third, and one might be in project management. Is that right?
Well, the truth of the matter is I've got 6 project certificates, because I am going for the specialist level so that I will be viewed as an agile coach, so that people coming in new to the field, I would actually train and develop and coach and mentor those people coming into the field. I do some of that now. But yes, when you talk about going back to your original question, and that trainer in me makes me use my hands, but your original question around what skills am I using in the stackable degree? I'm glad you touched on project management, because as instructional designers, you are all project managers, whether or not you are managing one learning solution, or when you get out there to wherever you go, corporate, higher ed, whatever sector, and you're managing huge projects. That project management experience is going to be vital. And when you start to look at leadership, if that is your desire from an instructional design standpoint, the people that are looking at strategy and needs analysis and needs assessment across the projects, that's probably where you will want to land and then partner with. And if you still want to do some of the as far as building the solutions, of course, get your practice in there as well. But project management and knowing that that's what I did, truthfully, and that's what I was, even though I called myself instructional designer, is what helped me. And it's what helped me to pivot into out of higher ed. And I always wanted to land in higher ed. I fancied myself getting my PhD one day. Then I had kids. So it allowed me to pivot into healthcare and different industries, government, pharmaceutical, those kinds of things. So very valuable. And the market is looking for that and calling for that, to be very honest.
So it sounds like you were savvy in figuring this out early enough that you could take advantage of this gigantic burst in terms of the need for people in our field that's happening over the past couple of years. There's lots of jobs out there now.
Bumped my head.
You what, your head?
Bumped my head a couple of times.
We all do. We all definitely do. You know, another area was mentioned was learning analytics. Have you dabbled in that at all, or have you thought about it?
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because I'm looking at an analytics certificate over at Harvard right now, because there is a huge market for being able to analyze data. I do some of that now, but I'm doing it in different, like Jira. I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with that kind of software, but when you talk about agility and project management, that's one of the leading software technologies that you could use. So yeah, we're pulling data out of there and analyzing, and we're using the charts and all of that good stuff. But I wanted something a little bit more formal. So I'm a lifelong learner. So I am looking at that possibly in the fall, if my brain cells will allow.
And your kids allow too, you know, there's always that.
Well, you know what? They are 15 and 16 now, so they are old enough to run my life. So, you know, I just asked them, could you please be quiet just for an hour? Let's pretend I don't have kids.
It doesn't work.
It's working so far. We'll see at the end of this video whether it works.
That's right. That's right. So you're testing this theory right now in action. Okay. So when you were working at, you know, you had your own company.
Yes.
Do you have employees working for you? And what kinds of employees were you hiring, if you did, or were they all work for hire kinds of people?
Oh, me personally, I knew that I did not want W-2 employees. That was too much. That was too difficult for me, because the scope of what I was going to do was probably going to be in that mid-level. So the best strategy for me, because I did not bring on another instructional designer to partner with me, the best strategy for me was to 1099 the work out. And that's what I did. I did some, you know, there was actually a freelance website, which I need to go back and remember that I used. I used people that I previously worked with. I would call Elizabeth. You know anybody? You want to do any work? So
I think I remember reading one of those emails. Yeah.
I called, you know, I'm calling, hey, Kurt, what's going on out there? Anybody need anything? You know, because we've got great talent sitting in this IST program. I mean, you know, didn't we get to like it was either number 4 or number 1? Was it on Forbes?
Look, number 1 in the master's program.
Yeah.
That was last year.
I think it was US News.
Yeah. World Report.
I remember posting about it. I'm like, yeah, I'm alumni. Yeah. I studied with the greats. Yeah. So
can you tell me, maybe you can't, which pharmaceutical are you working for?
No, I'm not supposed to say that.
Okay, then I won't. You didn't. That went back, and I didn't. Never asked.
Know, that really huge one.
Okay, all right. I got you. That
resembles a flower.
Yeah. Okay.
Downtown Indianapolis.
Sure.
And if y'all don't know that, I can't tell you anymore. So it's one of the giants out there.
How many people at your level working at that company at this time? Do you have any, you know, do you have a cohort of people you consult with?
So the way that it works, my particular company, we're a band of consultants, if you will. And so we are W-2 for the company, and our client, you know, we're working for our client. Now, that's our biggest fish downtown Indy, but I can tell you that there are some other sales that end in a force, you know, some other clients that we have, some Hewlett Packard, some things like that. I just don't want to say my company, my
right.
I'm working with right today.
Yeah.
And so there are about 150 of us that specialize in project management. Now, of course, I'm a hybrid because I'm coming in and I'm using those other skills as well. And those are serving me. My instructional design skills differentiate me from my pure project managers, if you will. And those are valuable skills that they look at and pull on. I'm a senior over there. My particular team, I have about 12 folks that I partner with and I help to lead and coach so that we can bring solutions to market. And on it's called an Agile Release Train. There are about 150 of us.
We're going to go to Christian.
Did that answer part of your question?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
So we're going to go to Christian after this next question. Let's see if I can ask another one that I'm not supposed to ask you. So, we tend to, the leaders in the field that you took courses with tend to pontificate about their particular learning model or theory or of instructional design.
Oh, no, you are not.
So what is it like today compared to what it was like 20 years ago in terms of in terms of the favored models of instruction and instructional design or instructional design approaches? How has it changed, and how have your favorites, if there's a favorite out there they grab to, what is it today and what was it in the past?
So, y'all, this is really a test. He's trying to see how well I did in 511 and if I remember it. That's really what it is. But I'll say this, the one that, so I'll start here. I was self-taught before I took my first class, before I took my first cert class. And the model that I gravitated for, because I was a trainer initially, and I began to be interested in what happened and how the mind worked and how we could build and develop the trainings versus just being the person out front. And what I gravitated for even before coming into the program was ADDIE, which I think 982,000 of us also gravitated towards ADDIE. Some of the behavioral, I honestly, by the time I left the program, I was leaning towards hybrids and mixtures of constructivism and collaboration. I fancy collaborative models, to be very honest with you, because it's going to build out that not customer centricity, but learner centeredness, because I think the highest level of encoding is going to have, well, we're all instructional designers, so I'm used to not talking to instructional designers, but you all know the higher levels of encoding when we're active learners. So you'll find me leaning towards some of those strategies. But if I had to pick a model, it'd be a hodgepodge. It really would, between the constructivism and the collaboration, the collaborative models with ADDIE in the background. But I started to feel old and dated because I was like, oh my, when, what is it? It's SAM. What is that, y'all? Situated approximation model. Is that it? So I was looking at it. And so you're like, how has it changed? And so I still develop the way that I used to develop, but because I'm in this thing and we're talking about agility, I look at where the connections are and the intersectionality. And there's a huge intersectionality with agility and speed to market between using SAM, and then the agile models that I use, and really breaking things down into vertical slices instead of waiting to give the full value at the end of the model. So that is what has changed, and that is what is consistent with the models that are out here now, whether it be instructional design, SAM, or SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework, which is what I use every day. So those are some of the things that I have noticed that have changed. But at the end of the day, I still gravitate towards some of the sticks, some of the foundational pieces. We know what we need to do to make sure that encoding takes place. So those things to me don't change. How we implement them changes over time. But I don't know, my professor would have to tell me if I'm right or wrong. Or my fellow students. I get to be a student tonight.
So what tends to be emphasized is what's called, it's not the instructional design model, but the technology integration model called SAM-R, which is a different model.
So there's a SAM-R now.
There's a SAM-R for technology integration out there, which stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. It's a conceptual model for educators to categorize and analyze the effectiveness of technology on students' learning and uncover the use of technology to transform it. And I can go on, but that's it, basically.
No, but that's phenomenal. Is there, so y'all tell me, because I've been away from it for a little while, but we started talking about technology on my team at work, because there is a team that's working on some call center work, and they are integrating AI and chatbot. So how, yeah. So how are y'all find, everybody's got that smile when you're designing, or how is AI playing out in our field for you all? What do you see?
Well, this is Bo's recent blog post. I just read it last night. Bo, you tend to be reading the most on AI besides me. I'm reading a lot myself. I just did a grant on AI for language learning. Bo, what do you think? What do you think an answer to that is?
It's been a huge focus and a huge topic of conversation. I was discussing this a little bit with some of my teammates earlier today, and I said, when I was down for the IST conference last month, I mean, there was a large percentage of the presentations that had a strong focus on AI, not just from students, but also from the faculty as well. It's definitely one of the hot topics. One of my projects for my other course that I'm in right now is developing a learning module for K-12 teachers, kind of focused on how they could use it to integrate AI into their classroom and not see it as the evil enemy at the moment.
That's going to replace us all, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So here at IU, there's been a lot of proactiveness from the teaching and learning centers. And today there actually was a workshop. I don't know, Bo, did you attend that? You said you couldn't attend the workshop.
I wasn't able to. I had my my director's meeting all day today. So did you make it, Dr. Bonk, or not?
I was grading papers and stuff like that because I'm going to the conference. I didn't get to that. I really wanted to, but I'll get the link. Well, no, they're not going to have a link because it was hands-on today. It was very hands-on workshop.
Okay.
So my committee, I'm in chair of teaching and learning with technology, wants to be proactive next year in talking about the possibilities rather than talking about the problems of AI. So I see a lot of that at IU, trying to ramp people up, make people aware of what's possible, and then have discussions. And they've been well attended. I mean, extremely. They're the most attended sessions right now that are happening out there. My research is going to look at YouTubers who train people in terms of language learning with ChatGPT. And so we're going to look at that, all the different ways language training can happen online with ChatGPT as a side, mentor, tutor, or whatever you want to call it, to augment one's learning. I think the augmentativeness of AI is where the possibilities lie.
Yeah.
And that's, we've been hearing this for decades that it'd be coming, and now it's just finally landed, and now people are reacting. Most people didn't even blink an eye in 10, 20 years ago, but now all of a sudden everyone is wanting to read the latest and greatest, just like what happened with MOOCs 10 years ago. The same kind of thing happened there. It's the hype cycle. It's over and over again, but we have to understand this because it's not going to go away. It's only going to amplify what happens, in education. So we did have one guest, his name is Donald Clark, who wrote 2 AI books. He was our guest 3 weeks ago or so. I think it was maybe 4. And he was great. I can get you the link to that session. He went on and on just for a long, long time. I was going to say something else, but we'll move on to Christian's question for you, Daria. Christian, you have a whole bunch, but which do you want to start?
Oh, you got a whole bunch, huh?
Well,
let's see what we got.
I have a few, but I think
he's in Indianapolis, by the way. Christian's up in India. So if you
so you're around the corner.
Indy flag. I am. Yeah, I'm right downtown.
So, I'm downtown too. I'm like just south of the Ivy Tech. So I've got I don't know if I can see it, my black violin t-shirt on. So I came down to the yard because I wanted to see black violin. So I thought it was fitting that I wore my t-shirt today.
Very good. Very good.
I'll be quiet, y'all. I'm a talker. So
that's good.
Let me let you get that
out. So what organizational changes have you been involved with enacting? So I think that your LinkedIn was saying that you did some change management and organizational change. And if so, if you have been, what was your most challenging experience that?
So everything that we do, primarily, that we introduce as designers and performance improvement consultants is going to have some form of change management wrapped around it. Just depends on how big or how small the project is and how big or how small the change is within the culture. So have I done it? Absolutely. And it's funny that you're talking about, that we're talking about change, because you talk about skills that we continue to take with us. And I'm going to answer your question. I promise that I am. I promise that I am. But I
believe you.
have a shameless plug for Cotter's work, right? So I'm down at Lily's. That's where I'm at. So I'm down at Lily's and we're talking about transformations, and it's a digital transformation, and it is moving from a waterfall process, and much like Addie, where we save the value of our products or our learning solutions until the end, until we get to evaluation, we're releasing and launching. So it's that same kind of thing from a project management standpoint. And then here we come along, this army of consultants, and we're talking about, no, let's get some value like every 2 weeks. Let's give them some stuff every 2 weeks instead of 4 months at the end of the solution. And so that in and of itself is a huge transformation that we are leading. And so we're having to look at, or we had to look at 5 years ago, they did, prior to me joining, had to look at the culture to see if the culture was going to be, first of all, what kind of organization is it? Are they in flux? Is it a matrix organization? So that we can learn how to lead that change. So there is actually a change management cert that's out there that is supposed to be deemed very valuable. It's called the Pro Sheet. And so the president of my company, we were talking and like, Daria, I want you to do blah, blah, blah. And he's throwing out all these terms and this new cert. And I said, okay, so talk to me about the cert. Talk to me about some of the competencies. And as he's talking, I said, oh, so you're talking about Cotter's work. Okay. So it was a great segue to be able to pull back to things that we learned about and to be able to use it and see how things are transforming and morphing out in the industry. So I say that to say, y'all are going to have some great transferable skills that can take you really wherever you'd like to go. You just need to be able to see some of those connections. So back to your question. The toughest change management initiative that I helped to support was at a company that I just left to join this company. I was unsatisfied with leading projects and seeing the value and going through all the bumps and not being able to pivot and take advantage of some of the low-hanging fruit along the way, if you will, because we were so tied to documentation and the rigidity based on what the model was. And the culture, I was looking to head into agility where, every few weeks we were putting something out, we were testing, we were saying, hey, does this work? Okay, we start something new or we continue. And, I did not have, or my project management team, there were 4 of us supporting 500 people at the time. We did not have the organizational support that we needed. We were in a very matrixed organization, and we just had lip service leadership. I'll call it what it is. I won't say the name of the company, but it made implementing valuable change very difficult because we were always questioned because we did not have, as project managers, we were not empowered to have the sphere of influence backing us to be able to make those changes. And, I just decided I wanted to do something different. And so I did. We did the traditional things, we were bringing people in, but we even had some pushback on taking people away from their jobs to participate and to understand what the change would look like so that they could buy into it instead of us just forcing it down their throat. So that is, and this was in a higher education healthcare industry. We were building ABSN programs for students across the nation from soup to nuts.
We
So
won't
supposed to say
ask
that.
where you were on the frustration meter, but I'm sure the frustration meter was
Pretty high.
high.
And you remember me when I get agitated and I'm like, listen. And by the time I give them the listen, I'm not able to do this anymore. It was time to go.
It was time to go. So,
But the
Christian, you
beautiful
want?
thing is
Go
we've
ahead.
got skills. So I used to fight myself because I didn't go somewhere and I didn't sit down and stay for 30 years. But I can tell you that every experience that I have had, I always left for a better opportunity, a better job, something more meaningful. And the raises that I received were much more impactful than the 2 to 3% that I would have gotten. Now I've got my roommate. She's the antithesis of me. She went to State Farm. We were 20, 21, graduating she never left. She's got a beautiful retirement account and a fulfilling career. Yeah, you're laughing at me. Her path just wasn't my path. And I know the value of my skills and I'm not afraid to pick up and move with them. Even at 52. Yeah, I said it.
Well, I've been here something like 30 years as well, and I probably should have moved a couple of times.
That's not what I'm saying.
No,
that is
no,
not what
I
I'm
said
saying.
it. I said it. I said it. Christian's got a couple more questions. Then we'll go to other students' questions. So 1 or 2 more, Christian. You want to jump in?
Yeah. So how do you connect with peers outside of your work environment? Like, is there a way that you do that?
So I was really I get so excited. This is the second or third time that I've been asked to come back. And I feel so special because this is a phenomenal program. So being able to have these opportunities, truthfully, where I am invited and I get to speak the lingo and find out what's going on and what's happening from you all because you're living it now. That is one way. Out on LinkedIn, I am a part of a couple of instructional design groups. So I get to kind of still take a look. I will reach into peers. I'm like, hey, Kurt, what's happening with this? Or, hey, Elizabeth, what's going on with this? So I still reach back out to my mentors and my professors and that kind of thing. From a project management standpoint, I am a member of project management of Central Indiana. So it's one of the largest chapters. I'm a member there and I'm very visible and I'm a volunteer. And that keeps me relevant in that particular space. And from a networking standpoint, it's phenomenal. I am not right now a member of AECT or ISB because I am not fully practicing, if that makes any sense.
There is an organization.
Perhaps I should be.
Yeah. Isn't there an organization, ISPI, Central Indiana?
Central Indiana.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I did
a presentation once. It's been 10 or 12 years. So it seemed pretty vibrant, actually.
I need to, as things change and they morph, truthfully, I have been looking for ways to still stay connected because I don't want the knowledge to get stale. There are different models coming down the pike and it's like, okay, what is this? Okay, how does it work? I still need to be able to draw those connections between what I learned and what is changing. If that makes any sense. So yeah, I'm happy to take recs from you guys.
Well, the organization's names are changing too. The ASTD is no longer as ATD or something like that, right? The Association.
I did see that.
Yeah, and so that may be the Central Indiana version that might have a version, but I think it's the ISPI. So my students might not know what ISPI is, International Society of Performance Improvement. So it really gets into
sorry,
the
I'm just throwing that out there. Old school terms.
Yeah. So, and it's changed its name over time because it was really behaviorist in its origins. Yeah. And so, the I and the P's all stood for something different in the old, that they changed as the theory changed or as the discipline changed, they had to come up with a new name for what it's just like. By the way, IST as a department's name is going to change to Learning, Design, and Technology at some point.
My heart's not ready for that.
No, most alums are not ready for that.
Yeah, why?
So, well, everyone else is in the field, and students are looking for a LDT program. They don't get our name. No one's using IST as a name anymore. There's only 1 or 2 that are, and so yeah, so even though it's branded, it's probably worth $1 million or $2 million to keep the brand. student searches, they're searching for learning, design, and technology nowadays.
Okay.
So,
Well, I mean, in my mind, that's like a lower level for what we did, but I'm probably biased.
yeah, I am too, and our alums are, all of them.
Yeah, all the alums was like, well.
And we merged with adult ed about a decade ago. Of course, you may have knew that when you were in the program.
You were just making that transition. You were just making that transition. And right. I remember watching and looking at what that would look like. Yeah. And I was just going to say, and I'll tell you, and it's not about a grade because I've already got my grade, but one of the best classes that I took, and I'm so grateful that I took it towards the end of my master's, was R511 because I had all those hard skills for the how to and from a master's program, but just being able to put together all of those strategies and to break things down and just snapshot, hey, here's how you engage, not here is a model for how you should do it. It's like, nope, here is how you do it. Here are some things, and to be able to practice. So I always wanted to tell you that is I hope that course is still around. That's a phenomenal course. Be interesting to see how it has morphed even in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But I won't hijack this talk anymore, Christian.
No, that's a perfect comment because you are friends with Elizabeth Bowling and she's in charge of who's teaching what and when. That course has not been taught for a year and a half and is not on the docket for next year either. So you let Elizabeth know that was the best course.
Honestly,
there is a book from that course now. I had 42.
You already had a book. You had
a book of stories from former students in the class who are in 22 different countries because I had Fulbrighters for about 4 years. There are a bunch of Fulbrighters who took the class from India, Botswana, Morocco, Mexico, Finland, Taiwan, and they all wrote chapters for a book of short stories. So that course got supercharged with all these Fulbrighters. It was just an amazing class.
Well, I remember there, I don't know if it was the first group of Fulbrighters when I was in there or not, but I do remember a group for sure.
Yeah, I think it was the first group. But what Daria doesn't remember is the pizza that I ordered and had delivered to the room in Indianapolis and made her pay for it. She was in Indianapolis taking the course at the time, and poor guy didn't get paid.
That was very different as well, to be able to, well before COVID, to be able to sit and take advantage of the different technology and, dealing with people in another country and different cities. And then we all come together, even in the way that we had to present. I think we were the test babies for COVID.
That's partly it, really, we were pushing the technology big time in that room. And
oh, absolutely.
Later on, it became 10 steps just to get it to function. Once Zoom happened, then you had to incorporate Zoom in all this. And the rooms weren't built for Zoom technology.
Yeah, I don't see that. Yeah.
And so
Zoom would have taken away from what the course offered.
Right. That was true.
That I remember it.
Yeah, that was true video conferencing. That was really unique to do that that way. It was picture tell and Cisco Centron systems combined. I've been teaching with this for a long time that way, for over a quarter century that way.
Okay.
So I was the guinea pig in 1995 with picture tell and See You See Me. In 1997 or 98, we started using the video conferencing up to Lebanon schools, Turkey Run, and then Center Grove, and then IUPUI, and IU East, IU Northwest, IU Columbus, IU Kokomo, maybe Kokomo one time. So yeah, I was experimenting, sending it out to as far as I could within Indiana.
Yeah, that surprises me that course has not been offered.
Well, so what happened? I forgot. This is the point I was going to make earlier. All the faculty right now are bought out on grants, or most of them, on AI grants. And the thing of it is, it's not what you would think of in terms of AI grants. The majority of the money we're getting is for AI for K-2 teachers, young grades.
Really?
To teach them about AI. Really. And
I guess I understand that strategy, but I would have thought that it would have been for the big people first, but probably what they're doing, it sounds like it's just a reversal. And it's like, let's get the kids because we don't know about changing them. But if you get the kids or the little learners, not the kids, the little learners, then that's all they know. And it's easier to mold those minds if that's all that they know, versus us, we have to unlearn a lot to be able to accept the changes that are out there. But that's just my 2 cents.
You want my 3 cents or penny and a half? My theory is that everybody was applying for these things. Oh, did we lose her? Oh, can you still hear me, by the way?
We're good.
Okay.
We can hear you. Yeah.
So let's type in some questions for her in the chat window so that we have some when she comes back. I assume she'll pop back in here. And Daria will be back, I would assume, or I'll get a text message from her shortly. Here she is. I got an iPhone admission. So we see you, maybe hear you. Can you hear us, Daria?
I am so sorry. The computer died, so I had to dial up my phone, and the kid is actually getting me set back up. So my apologies.
Great. I know, no problem. So here's my 3 cents. During the last year or two, there was big stimulus package money. The grants exploded. And I have a feeling the obvious grants would be to write them for high school students and college students and all that. And probably there were a few grant applications for K to early primary. And so that's what got funded, because they were my guess is they were one of the only ones that were focused on that level.
That makes sense to me. So it's the lowest hanging fruit. You can get those dollars.
There's a lot of money out there, and the creative people found ways to get at that money.
We should write a grant. Okay?
That's right. And that's what will happen. Is these things happen. They snowball out of these conversations. And, in fact, I might contact you, as things come up. Like the AI grant I wrote, we're going to move to a bigger grant next time. There's a smaller Spencer grant, this first one. And
please, could you give me a block so that I could charge this up? So I'm sorry for that.
Your phone is perfect, actually. It's really.
Well, I need to charge the phone now.
I was going to say it's crisp and we can hear you quite well. Christian,
okay.
Here we go. Bo's got the next question. Bo, you want to jump in and get Daria to respond?
Yeah, sorry, I just realized I wasn't muted as I was typing that. So I was probably clacking away. But I said, as our work in instructional design and change management always involves, working and collaborating with others. Yes. It's always a necessary component to ensure that that the vision that others have for whatever the final outcome is on par with what they're describing to you. So what tools do you utilize regularly to ensure that whatever that end deliverable is really what the individual you're working with is accurate?
So very good question. And because I live in 2 worlds, I'm going to answer it from an instructional design perspective, like when I'm definitely sitting in that world. And if I am doing waterfall, it still goes back for me to project management. So you say, what tools? My project plan, where I'm talking. So I don't know if R626, gosh, I don't even remember the name, but I think it was strategies and consulting, where you actually have to find a performance improvement project, a live one or an authentic one, and build a project plan, talk about dollar cost and averaging and talking about schedules and all that good stuff. So building your project plan out, like what's the rationale? And please pardon me if you're like, duh, I know that, but I don't know. Do you know? So I'll ask the question, do you know what a project plan is?
I do know what a project plan is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually in the middle of seeing if R626 was still available here. Yeah.
Oh, look, who taught me that one? It was Charlie, and I forget
Charlie Regulus.
He was one person that taught it, but no, there was
Tom Brush might have taught it too.
What's his last name?
Brush.
No, this gentleman gave, and that's a shame that I just don't remember it like right off, but he gave me a recommendation out on LinkedIn. I'll have to go look for it now.
Yeah.
Peter, not Charles. Peter Hornbein.
Yeah, Peter Hornbein. Yeah. He was a
people,
guest in this class last semester.
oh, really?
Yeah.
He is phenomenal. But
Yeah.
so we taught that particular course, but yeah, we did the project plan. So that's how we kept it straight. Talking about, hey, the rationale all the way down to what technology are we going to use in the project and what's our schedule look like, negotiating things like, okay, here's our review cycle. We hold it for 2 days to make changes, and you hold it for 2 days in order to keep your schedule tight, and then agreeing on it, having that scope meeting. Well, the scope meeting to figure out what you're doing ahead, but that actual kickoff where you're talking about your project plan, that is how I keep people sane and accountable, to be very honest, when I'm in the world of instructional design and performance improvement consulting in a waterfall environment. In project management, we do that through what we call planning increment, PI planning, and everybody has to be at the table, all of leadership, all of our teams, our development teams, and we come up with an actual plan. We agree to it. We raise our hands and say, hey, I agree to it. We have videotape. Yeah, we tape them. We're done. So still the idea is still the same though, the collaboration and you leading the effort to ensure that everybody gets the same message at the same time and that they physically agree to it.
What's the biggest team that you've worked on a project like that? My company that I work for, I mean, I'm usually working amongst, 6 to 10 people at the most. Is that about what you're looking at, or is it larger divisions?
Well, you know what? Much respect to the teams that are 6 to 8. You can work on really complex projects. My largest team happened to be 55. So we were working on,
oh my gosh.
Well, we had our project management team. We had admissions folks. I was responsible for 12 lines of business on my side of the corporate side of the house. And then we partnered with higher ed institute, of course, because there's the bureaucracy. Yeah, I said that, Kurt. When you're building out programs that have compliance issues and you're talking about curriculum, and you have to have the right people involved, and it was nursing programs, and so they didn't trust us because we didn't have nursing and doctorates and this or that. I'm like, yeah, but I can design the heck out of a program. I need you to listen to me. So we had those two teams that meshed together, and again, about 55 people. So yeah, we had to have a plan. We had regular sync meetings, status meetings, all that good stuff. Sign off, mail approval.
Christian wants to jump in here. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead, Christian.
So I'm just curious because you talked about giving clients of yours like almost weekly increments with the agile system that you're working on or working with. How does that work when it comes to the scope of the project? You can obviously lay that out at the very beginning of the project. This is the end goal. These are going to be how we're going to engage with you at these weekly meetings. But inevitably, I can imagine at those weekly meetings, there's new scope. And is it a change order? How do you deal with that?
So you're talking about two different worlds. You're talking about traditional, and then you're talking about agility. So the traditional is the world that we all grew up with, right? And what most of us are in right now. And yes, at the beginning, everything is scoped out in your requirements. And so there is not a lot of room for change. And changes are a big deal in traditional because, hey, we scoped all this out. We said what we were going to do. We said when we were going to do it. And of course, it requires a change request that would have to be approved if we change and or alter the scope. And now that's traditional. With what I do right now and what folks are probably doing that are actually working SAM or SAM-R, it is not, the methodology is such that you spend less time on documenting all of the requirements from the beginning to the end. And you say, hey, what is what we call an MVP, a minimal viable product, or a lot of times might be akin to like a prototype. What is the least amount that we can do based on what you told us you wanted to give you something that works from a curriculum standpoint in SAM. And so there's a lot of moving in and out of evaluation and then going back into development. So you'll see those kind of more of those kind of feedback loops with like a SAM. And that is where the scope should be expected to change, because it's based on the stakeholders' reaction to what you just produced. So when you start talking about agility and vertical slices of work and getting to market sooner, the expectation is that you do make room and that is culturally expected for changes or change requests to come, versus the traditional where it's like, we're not changing anything. We're just gonna give you what you said you wanted from the beginning.
Can that be different, I guess, in a more highly regulated environment? So like, say you're talking about like drugs and somebody might die from certain something.
Like it literally.
Maybe.
Yes, it can be. And do we still have to take into consideration FDA requirements? Yes, we do. I've got a project that I want to launch this week. And, our compliance folks are like, oh, we need 30 days to review that. Oh, no, you don't. So it's talking to the culture. And that's where you talk about having, it's where your leaders have to embody the change with you, and they have to go and they have to champion the change for you sometimes in order for us to move. Because I'm hounding my team saying, you need to go back to the stakeholder and tell them we don't have 30 days. You need to manage your stakeholder. And you need to be an advocate for our framework, for our model. We work on 2-week increments. What can they give us in 2 weeks? So maybe they don't improve the entire product, but for what we have developed, can they approve that? And then do cyclical reviews so that when they have to do their full legal review, it's not a review from the top to the bottom. It's really a review for, truthfully, the last maybe quarter of work that we've done, because they've already seen and reviewed what we're doing. So yes.
What the changes have been. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did that attempt to answer some of your question, Chris?
Oh no, that's wonderful. Yeah, no, I mean, I'd often thought about how you structure that with a client, and manage that expectation around change. Yeah.
Threats.
More about getting the right threats. You will not get that PowerPoint in 2 weeks if I don't give it to you. So listen up.
See, you can see what Christian would do. You tell him to handle the stakeholder, he'll put a stake in them, real quick.
A lot of and Kurt, I have to apologize. I'm so sorry for hijacking this conversation.
Oh, please. This has been great. It'll be more entertaining for those that are going to watch asynchronously later on. Before we go, we want to see if Nicholas
has one.
Or if Bo wants to jump back in. So, Nicholas?
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about our portfolios lately, just because I know that's like kind of an inevitable part of the process. So we're going to have to work on our portfolios. And then it gives me anxiety, because I think about with my current assignments I'm doing, what should I be doing that could go into my portfolio, and what skills do I want to showcase and that kinds of thing. I guess, how often have you been asked to show your portfolio as you're looking at different jobs? And I guess also, what did you choose to put into your portfolio?
Oh God, it's gonna make me really think. I'm like, I don't think. when I was newer, to be very honest, yes, it was all about what's in that portfolio. I worked on I ended up focusing more on highlighting technical writing abilities. That was what I wanted to focus on. And so I had done, by the time I had graduated, 3 or 4 pieces. One class, I think Elizabeth taught it. I don't even remember the class. This is so terrible. But we did something with, is it still Baxter? BPS, I think, or they used to partner with IU at that particular time. It's a pharmaceutical company. And so we did authentic projects. And so those were real projects, real clients, real evaluations, real presentations. So I focused, that was one project. I had done a project outside of class through some consulting work, actually. And I ended up over at Roche Diabetes Care. So I did some work. I included that. I worked on, this was through, I think, my R611, my needs analysis class. We worked on an actual needs analysis and assessment for a chemical company. And we presented all of that, the executive summary, everything, all the way down to the force field analysis, the SWOT analysis, and the recommendations. Those are valuable projects that you're going to be working on. So I'll be very honest with you, almost anything, and I know that things probably haven't changed. Kurt, you would have to tell me, or y'all would have to tell me, most of your higher level courses are going to make you produce something.
Okay.
Anything you produce will be valuable. It's about how you sell it. You know, I wasn't very good at e-learning and authoring. I'm not the best there. Now I can design what should, I can tell folks what should happen, but I am not I'm more creative with my words than I am with the pictures. But there's some people that can develop some prototypes, and they are beautiful. And that's what they do. That's not more valuable than what I do. So it's internalizing that what you do has value, and then you just go sell it.
So in my emerging learning tech class a couple of years ago after Hurricane Maria, my students were designing mobile apps for training for teachers, because mobile was banned in Puerto Rico before Maria, and that's all they had possible after Maria. And they could put that in their portfolios. I've had students create podcast shows. Elizabeth Bowling has a capstone course, and one of my doc students was showing me a new AI app that's in the App Store for free. It's related to showing how to write in Chinese. All the, Xiaoying would know this, but how to describe the writing in Chinese, but it kind of, as you speak, it comes up, it writes it out, and so you can see it, So, and I said, where'd you learn to do that? She says, in Elizabeth Bowling's capstone class, it was my final project. So some of your final projects can up in your dossier.
Absolutely.
So if you have options, pick the option which will lead to something valuable, right?
Absolutely.
Or something that you like doing.
Or both. Or both. So great question, Nicholas. Xiaoying, do you have a question? Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
I'm just trying to get you to laugh. So tell her what your background is. So Daria is aware why you're here and what your degree you're going for. Xiaoying?
Oh, yeah.
Tell her why you're at IU. What degree are you going for, and what's your background before coming here?
It's education. It's education. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not the English, it's just the education.
English education?
Not English education, just education.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Are you a teacher in China?
Actually, I worked in an international school before, but in the end, before I come here, I'm a online instructional designer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Which do you enjoy best? And help me out with a name like Daria. I try to get names right. Is it Cheyenne?
What?
Chuying.
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 Yeah, Chuying. Yeah, CH.
Chewing. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Chuying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chewing. Okay. I like to get that right. Okay. So which do you prefer? So I've done some stand-up corporate training, and I absolutely love it because I light up in front of a room. But I also love creating light bulb moments as an instructional designer, where it's mostly solitude, by yourself. Which do you enjoy best? Or do you like a combination of the two?
Maybe instructional designer, I guess. Yeah, because it's more, sometimes if you talk talk with the kids. It's yeah, I don't know how to say that, but
I do. I know
yeah.
what you're thinking.
Yeah, I want to talk with adults, communicate with them. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. I can see that. I can see that.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Thanks, Judy.
Bye.
Jennifer is coming from Houston Community College down in Dallas, or not Dallas Community College down in Dallas.
Okay.
And you want to jump in, Jennifer?
I think actually a couple of the last questions sort of anticipated what I'm curious about, but I would have just framed it as someone who's been teaching her whole life. Like, what advice would you offer if a person like that were to try to make the transition into the corporate world?
Into the corporate world? Well, I'll be very honest with you. I never let the boundaries bother me or stop me. You're teaching. Doesn't matter if you're, don't let anybody tell you that you're not teaching. Teaching, training. If you do it well, and if you understand what you're doing, it's the same thing. I use the same skills as a corporate trainer that I do when I'm in front of the classroom. Now, I'm not a licensed teacher, but I did do some subbing because I wanted to actually go into the classrooms, to be honest. And honestly, for me, it wasn't my desire to get my teaching license. So when I'm in front of that room, it's to impart knowledge, and we know how to do that. So when you're talking about the pivot, you want to talk about, and I used to write resumes and do career advice for the state of Indiana. So I'm sorry, I'm morphing into that. You just want to talk about those transferable skills. How are you going to connect with that room? How are you going to make sure that they're engaged? For me, it is, I use my body. I'll go stand behind somebody, I will, my unruly, I will make that person my friend, and they will be presenting by the end. But talking about your EQ, that is something that's your emotional intelligence that's going to separate you from the masses. How do you handle groups? How do you handle people? How do people perceive you? Your executive presence. Do people know that you're leading when you walk in the room? So some of those types of things. I think you probably already have the hard skills that it takes to pivot. It's going to be making yourself look like on paper what you need to look like. And what you want to do is look at that job description, and you want to match those parallel experiences out of there. That might be more than you asked for, but
no, that's very helpful. I mean, I think it's a mindset thing, I think, with, having the authority in a classroom of teenagers, and then, finding how that transfers.
Same.
Yeah. But when you were asking a moment about preferences presenting in that way, or the sort of the more creative, independent work, for the latter, what would you recommend? What kinds of things to look for?
You said recommend. That depends on you.
Well, I don't know. Just
I'm a bubble. I am a fish in water in front of people. Y'all might be able to tell that. It makes me become alive. Mm-hmm. So I struggled. I had to find some ways to have some creative outlets when I was doing the instructional design. And I ended up partnering with people, and we would collaborate. And that gave me my outlet, to be honest. But I'd gotten to a point in my career where I didn't want to do stand-up. I didn't want to do stand-up for 40 hours. That would drive me nuts. I like the ability to drop in on groups. So I'm unsure. It depends on your personality, I guess. And I'm not.
I guess I was just curious about the opportunity.
Are you asking what opportunities are out there?
Yeah, what kinds of opportunities? I've been in a very small fishbowl for a long time, and I'm just now looking out at the rest of the world. So yeah.
So with your skill set, I mean, if you're a part of this program and you've got some teaching chops, if you wanted to go into any corporate environment, you could. You've got the skills. You simply need to do a Google search or go out on Indeed.com and come up with the opportunities that you'd like to take a look at. or I'm not sure of I'm old, y'all. I still call them headhunters or recruiters that would specialize in training and development. I think Clarity Consultants, and I'm not pubbing Clarity Consultants. That's just one back in the day that used to specialize in learning and development opportunities. That's one place that you might be able to look. Maybe look at a contract role first to get your feet wet, and then also to segue into corporate. I've done that a couple of different times and gotten a couple of different offers. But yeah, the opportunities are definitely out there. I've even been looking at like project management. I've been looking at who's been coming on board lately for our company. We've got a gang of teachers that are coming on board and pivoting to project management because of all the things that you have to do. The competencies line up well. Was that all helpful?
No, it was. I'm brand new here, so well, I don't know how much longer I can say that, but yeah, my first semester. I'm just
she's thinking deeply. You got to read her blog posts. It's very extensive thoughts are going in right now to channel all the readings and all the speakers and into maybe some themes and so forth. What Daria didn't mention is that the subscription that she and I are in, the group within LinkedIn, is the title is called Vampires of Instructional Technology, because we suck the energy out of the room when we give talks in front. We come alive in front of a group, and then we the energy of everyone in the room gets zapped because we pull it out of them, so what's that?
Sorry. I don't know how you and I manage in a room.
It'd be real funny if one of us would probably have to give up caffeine for the day or for the week. Seriously, I taught that Saturday class once up in Indianapolis with a visiting scholar, and she says at the end, Kurt, you got to give up coffee. Just please do me a favor, just give up. Because I did. I gave up coffee, but I drink caffeinated tea now, so I'm trying to give that up too somewhat. And chocolate, I gave up for the last couple of weeks. It's really hurting bad. I really need some of that energy, so I suck it out of people. And you can see Daria also has the same subscription. Look us up in LinkedIn. You'll find that group if you want to join Vampires of Instructional Technology.
No, not at all. But I'm that you're not. I mean, like, I loved 546, and people come in with all different color suits and bells, whistles, stuff. I'm like, nobody's that.
Yeah, we have costumes, people customs of the world, and authentic dress and musical instruments and so forth. We had someone play music from Kazakhstan. I think you might have been in that class.
It was a riot. I mean, the whole.
I'll tell a final story because you'll love this. The next year after you took that class, maybe 2 years later, I had 4 visiting scholars in that class. One from Korea, one from China, one from Columbus, Indiana, and I forget where the fourth one. And I took him in my room. I says, I'm not going to be in the class. You're going to take over the last class for me, and I'll come in a little bit late. And so I gave them each 15, 20 minutes. They're going to each took over a piece of the class. And then one of my students, her name is Kendall, she calls me, she says, where are you? I says, and I answer the phone. I go, I hit a deer. And it was an accident, and she goes, go to the hospital. And I said, no, I'll make it to class. So I put fake blood on, and I went to the class and walked real slowly into the class. All my students were feeling sorry for me. We had Coast Guard guys who were trying to find ointments for me. Someone from Taiwan had special Taiwanese ointments she's putting on me. I had this blood. And it was a 5-hour class. And so for 4 hours, I pulled that. Well, I showed up an hour late. So for 3 hours, I pulled it off. No one knew that I wasn't really hurt. They thought I really hit a deer and my car was demolished, and I showed up for class. And at noon, I got up, and all the 4 visiting scholars with me, we stood up in front of the room. He goes, it's all a joke. And the student from Taiwan, she says, don't you ever do that again. Don't you ever do that again. And then 5 seconds later, she goes, where can I get some of that fake blood? Because she wanted to use it with her students. She was teaching undergrad W200, and the student from Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan, she tried it in her country with her students. She sent me a film of it. So yeah, we try all sorts of crazy stuff in that class. It's kind of a riot. I used to do all sorts of skits. I do the 10 mini myths of e-learning with mini me, and I'd be Dr. Evil with a bald head and all sorts of things. But yeah, so Daria reminds me of the old days when I used to be funny. I'm not funny anymore, unfortunately, but but I'll try. I have a final question, quick question for you. Does anyone else have a one more final question from the audience here? Does anyone want to raise it? Christian, what's on the list that you didn't ask?
Lots of things, but how do you go about finding your cheerleader for your work? Because
that's a really good
you
question.
Talked about the different stakeholders and everything.
I'll be very honest. When I walk in, so there's something called a RACI chart, and even if you do it, you're talking about who's going to be responsible for something, who's accountable, and who needs to be consultant, and who needs to be consulted about information, and who needs to be informed. One of the things that I was blessed with was reading a room and being around people. So I'll just begin to interact with the group, who's feeling you or not. And so after I find out who my cheerleader is, my cheerleader may or may not be the leader of that group. And I don't care, as long as I have an advocate. That's what I'm looking for, to be honest with you. So I don't know. I was blessed with the gift of gab, and I love people. So it's usually easy for me to find a cheerleader and help someone get excited about what we're doing. And they really do pick the gauntlet up. Now, I know it's not always the case. And you can, even in a dry room, I'm going to find a cheerleader, because that's just what's going to happen. You don't, but you need to be my advocate.
Can I chime in for just a second?
Yeah.
When I do presentations, I do the exact opposite. I find the negative Nancy in the room or the negative Ned, and I make them the person that I want to win over. And by the end of it, I usually get that accomplished. It's really fun.
That's empowering too. I do that with physical space in a classroom. Like if somebody's just really acting up, I'm going to come, and back in the days before Me Too, when you could touch people, I would put my hand on somebody's shoulder, like, quit playing with me, keep my class, quit playing with me. So, but my personality, unfortunately, has a tendency to jump out in any room that I'm in. So I can see that with you too, because I'm like so digging the hair. I'm like, yeah, I can see you getting what you need out of a group. But yeah, that's
I'm gonna make it work. That's it.
Yeah. And the negative people, if you win them over, they're your friends for life.
Exactly.
They become the true advocates.
Yeah.
I've had a couple times where students have walked in, and I got two best friends from 1997. They walked in. One of them said, "You got the worst website I've ever seen. Who designed that?" And now he lives here in Bloomington. He writes science fiction novels. We're really good friends. And another friend, I'll see her at AERA. We ended up writing a book together, did many projects, but she walked in. I had to prove myself to them. Those are the people you got to prove yourself. But once you prove yourself and you provide something of value to them, then they trust you. So some people just got to win over in different ways, and you can't be immediately reactive to the negativity that comes at you.
True.
Because if you are, it becomes a worse and worse of a situation. So it takes time to reflect. You got to give your brain time to reflect on it, and be patience, a critical word in this field. Patience is
patient. It's terrible, Kurt. Terrible. That's my area of opportunity, right?
So my last question for you, Daria, is what is a skill or area that you're going to be working on in the future? That was my last question for you. Besides learning about AI, I assume AI is one thing you're going to want to learn about. Besides AI, what other things?
Wow. I have to be my mind is so skewed towards the project management. So let me think about instructional design. I really want to know about SAM-R and how y'all are implementing it. That's the newest, shiniest whistle for me out there. Then I be able to go back and try to reconcile that with what I know about Addie. And because here's the thing. You may find me more active in instructional design and performance improvement consulting in the next 3 years than I am right now in project management, because those are skills that I have. And so I never want to get stale, if that makes any sense. So AI is just near and dear to my heart because it's so new and the rest of the world is heading there. So I'll definitely be looking at that, but then looking at how we can increase agility with the models that are out there right now from an instructional design standpoint would probably be where I am. And then also as a last, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to get that change management certification. I keep telling them I did that with my master's degree. So I don't know. We'll see.
As you can see, tonight's been wonderful. And a carryover from last week when we got into corporate training for the first time, and we'll continue during the next couple of weeks. So this has been tremendous. Actually, you've been impactful, powerfully getting us to think about new ideas and what you're up to. And it's good to see someone's career. Actually, you get a sense of one's career and how it's changed and shifted over time, and how you're able to take advantage of the skills you learned within IST as well as within your consultative part of your career, and also the courses that you went into a company and did something for them or with them and reported about them. These action-based learning is extremely important today, and I see you're a product of that in many ways. Mm-hmm. And so everyone, I'll give her a big round of applause, Daria Vaughn, for this week in ISC in 511. For next fall, in fact, when we get to week 12, 13, students for next fall, I'm speaking to you now, 6 months from now, you're going to be watching her. You can write to me for her email if you'd like to contact her. It's istdesigner007@gmail.com. Hope she doesn't mind that getting on tape here, but I'm sure she'll reply rather quickly. And go visit her. Maybe Christian and Daria can meet me at the garage in Indianapolis on Mass Avenue.
Away from the garage, and I love the garage.
How many blocks?
Designer007@gmail.com. I think somebody just put something up in the chat. It was
IST Designer. Yep, you got it now. So Christian's about 5 minutes away from the garage as well, isn't it, Christian?
Yeah, drive definitely. Walk, it's more like 10.
Well, I'm not walking, but I'm close.
So you're basically neighbors. So we'll see you all at the garage. Yeah. I'll set up a time. Once a year, I go up to Indianapolis for a lunch and a chat with my friends at IUPUI.
You did not invite me. I was hot. I saw it on Facebook.
I know. I felt bad. I really felt bad right away. I really felt, but
I needed to make you feel bad.
Well, this is still being recorded. Let me stop the recording. And week 12, part 1, signing off. Thank you, Daria.